A little while ago, I was building a new one-shot. The premise was that there's this book hidden somewhere deep within a massive magical library. The players would make their way through various sections until they reach their final destination, the inner sanctum. They'd fight the final boss and collect the tome, mission accomplished. But I wanted to add a twist. As soon as they take this tome, I wanted the library to begin to attack them as they make their escape, very Indiana Jones style. The characters would make their way through each section they came across on their way up. But this time, each character would need to make a skill check to determine if the library was successful in slowing their escape. If the player succeeded, I wanted to increase the chance of that specific player surviving the one-shot, and decreasing their chance of survival on a failure. The goal was to have one final reveal at the very, very end to see who made it out alive, to keep all the tension just for that one final moment. Even if you failed everything, I wanted there still to be a slim chance that you'd live. The one problem I ran into, though, was how do I represent this using dice? Every single idea I had didn't give me the feeling, the experience I was looking for. And in the end, I ended up ditching the dice completely and using a completely different medium. Hey everyone, David Fox from Modular DM here. I'm sure that all of you DMs watching have at least one time experienced when you had a super cool idea, but you just couldn't properly represent it by a dice roll. No matter how creative you got, it never felt right. The unfortunate thing is that's where most of us stop. We never think about using another medium besides dice. It's generally a very foreign concept to DMs. Even though there are so many other mediums out there we can use that fit our use case way better than dice ever could. So in this session, we're going to run through 3 different mediums you can use to generate a random number or outcome, what we use dice to do, and the unique properties that each of these mediums have. So if you ever find yourself in a scenario similar to what I described, you won't have to settle for a makeshift solution with dice that just doesn't feel right, but can instead select the best tool for the job. Up first, we've got coins. Of all the mediums we're discussing, coins are the most similar to rolling dice. In fact, you can simply call a coin a D2 for its 2 sides. But because of its recognizable form factor and that it only has 2 outcomes, makes it a bit of a special case. Remember that session from a bit ago where we talked about how to instill tons of tension and excitement into important dice rolls? Well, simply by using a coin, you get most of the tension and excitement we discussed for free, that we built a whole technique around, but without having to go through all the same amount of work. There's the thrill of the flip, catching it in your hand and slowly revealing it to everyone at the table. It's super fun, dramatic, and plus, it's incredibly easy for everyone at the table to immediately know the outcome as soon as you reveal it, because there's only 2 sides. In fact, this medium helped create one of the most beloved and memorable items in my previous campaign. It was called the all-in coin. Once a day, when you would normally use a D20, you can flip this coin instead. On a heads, you get a critical success, but on a tails, a critical failure. The amount of fun, tension, and excitement whenever my monk player would use this was so much fun. So if you ever have an outcome that you need to randomly determine that's close to 50-50 and there isn't a way for other players to help out and throw in bonuses, consider using a coin, especially if you can find a cool and unique one to use. Next, we've got spinning wheels. And there's a few things they're really good at. If you've got a situation with multiple distinct outcomes that aren't tied to player stats but still need to be randomly resolved, wheels are great, because as soon as that spinner stops, it's incredibly clear to everyone at the table exactly what happens next. There's no lag time between the random number generator finishing, and everyone at the table knows what happens next, because you wrote all of them down. Another strength of the wheel is how simple it is to adjust the randomness to be whatever you want. Simply put the same outcome in multiple different spots. That's all you have to do. There's no dice math involved. Plus, it's just kind of fun to spin, and it makes rolling into an activity that the entire table is doing together, just because of the different form factor. Try using it once and see how your table likes it. I got this one off of Amazon for $30, and there are tons of free online wheels you can use for those of us who also have online groups. Now, let's talk about my favorite randomness medium: cards. There are so many different ways you can use cards to level up your games. I'll probably have to record a few videos sometime down the road, but for now, I want to go over all the unique properties cards bring to the table that dice simply don't do a good job of. So strap in, because we're going to go fast. First of all, cards open up a whole new realm of randomness to us. You see, dice, coins, and wheels are great at generating what is known as independent probability. That is, every single time I roll a d20, I will always have a 1 in 20 chance of a nat 20. That never changes. My past rolls do not impact my next roll. Cards can do this as well, but they're also capable of what is called dependent probability. Say I have a deck of 20 cards. If someone draws a card and then discards it, there are now only 19 cards remaining in the deck, which means that over time, the probability of drawing any single card or outcome, in our use case, changes. My past draws impact my next one. So when used correctly, the cards themselves can dial up the tension for you automatically in your game. Next, unlike dice, cards are intrinsically shareable and tradable. Just imagine the narratives you could tell by allowing your players to literally trade randomness with one another, to trade fates. There are so many possibilities just in this one mechanic alone, but we'll save running through an example of that for the end of the session. Similar to the spinning wheel, cards can also store immense amounts of discrete information. But unlike the wheel, they're very easy to prepare in advance of a session. Simply spend a few dollars on some index cards and you can make as many outcome decks as you want. In fact, you could come prepared to the session with 5 different decks, all each with 30 different cards inside of it. Versus a wheel, while it is super fun and unique, I can't really prepare 5 different decks ahead of time, unless I want to buy 5 of these, when that'd actually be pretty funny. And lastly, cards are king when it comes to manipulating randomness. Simply keep adding or removing cards to the deck until you're pleased. Want to increase the chance of a certain outcome? Well, add more duplicates to the deck. You're never limited by space like you may be with wheels and other mediums. And you never have to worry about dice math. Going back to the very start of this session, I described a particular wall I ran into while developing this one-shot. I wanted to dynamically, through various skill challenges, increase or decrease the likelihood each individual, not a group, each individual player had of surviving the escape sequence of the library. And dice just weren't cutting it. So which medium do you think I used for the one-shot? If you guessed cards, You'd be right. What I did was make several copies of two types of cards, a failure card and a success card. Every single time a player succeeded or increased their chance to survive, I gave them a success card. And every single time they failed and the library succeeded in slowing them down, I gave them a failure card. This ended up being a ton of fun because each player saw the chance of their escape increasing and decreasing throughout the entire escape. It helped grow the tension continuously. Now, the plan was to have each player shuffle their own deck of cards and flip over the top one to see if it said success or failure to indicate if they survived. But I added one more twist because the cards were almost begging me to. Before anyone shuffled their deck, I allowed the players to trade a success card of their own for a failure card of another's, to mechanically represent their character going out of their way to save their friend, truly using mechanics to represent meaning. And this part alone made the resolution of that one-shot an immense amount of fun and filled with dramatic tension. And they ended up getting incredibly lucky because every single person in that one-shot ended up surviving. That is it for this session, everyone. I really hope that this has opened up your eyes to the vast amount of possibilities you have as a DM when you don't limit yourself just to dice. Dice are super fun, and I still use them over 95% of the time in my games. But I no longer try to shoehorn them into providing an experience to my players that a different randomness medium is just way better suited for. If you know of some other randomness mediums or examples of how you would have used coins, wheels, or cards, please leave a comment down below, because both I and all the other DMs here would love to learn from your experience. And if you enjoyed this session, you might also enjoy the one we've referenced multiple times that details a process you can follow to maximize the drama and excitement in any dice roll. And next session, I think we might be debunking some myths on one-shots and showing you why they're not as difficult to run and create as people make them out to be. See you then.